one of the main things that led me to your company and to you were, the idea and the popularity right now of peptides. I was talking with Dr. Solomon. She was discussing how it's difficult in California to get certain peptides. FDA is obviously cracking down on compounding pharmacies about peptides. But, another thing that was very intriguing to me was I know peptides. I've been on CJC, I've been on BPC-157 before, but I've been on the compounded version that you have to inject every day, sometimes twice a day. Super annoying. Not that painful or anything if people are listening, like, oh my God, you got to inject. No, just subcutaneously. It's very simple, but still annoying, doing that over and over. And when Dr. Ashley said, oh, there's this great company that's doing oral peptides, I was like, okay, I've heard of some troches of something, but you're doing combination oral peptides. Like, tell me about that. How did you go? Because most people, as they know, Ozempic and everything else is an injectable, and you're doing an oral peptide that's OTC. So how are you able to achieve that?
Yeah, and I was like you. I was one of those injecting peptides, and for a long time, I was under the impression that it's injectable or nothing. Right, there was no
Yeah.
backup plan, and it really set me into this because I felt like if we can identify peptides that are orally bioavailable and can move the needle, combine it to the background I've already had with botanicals and different nutrients, and bring the best of both worlds together, we were going to be able to help so many more people and be able to rely on these when needed, right? So we take something like BPC-157, which was historically one of the few peptides that were orally bioavailable, right? It's in our digestive juice. We're also tapping into a peptide absorption enhancer called SNAC, which is short for salcaprozate sodium. This was brought to my attention back in early 2016 when there was a product on the market that was taking B12 bound with this SNAC to mimic injectable B12 results before and after blood chemistry. And I was like, this is crazy. No way. Right? I've heard of sublingual B12, IV B12 injection. And there was many companies like mine at the time that had, oral and B12. And this was this biohacking to improve absorption. That's when SNAC was on my radar. And I started looking deeper into literature, saw some other publications about the potential supporting this buffering effect, making peptides that historically were only able to be injected to now have a chance to be impacted orally. And so our first to market was the BPC-157 with low dose SNAC at the right ratio. And now to date, we've added SNAC to things like thymosin Beta-4 frag 1 through 4, a bioregulator called Thymogen, and even KPV. So we're building on that. But that was just one piece of the puzzle. The other piece was on a global scale, how do we identify incredible research and development groups that are identifying peptides naturally occurring in nature, doing things like self-GRAS or getting the paperwork and documents to get GRAS approved, and then investing in research to get it published on the impact orally their peptides are making. And so we now have the largest variety of oral peptides in the health practitioner space in the United States. And part of that is really unique relationships on a global scale that we're bringing innovation outside of the US in here into health practitioners' hands. So things like DNF10 for satiety, multiple human studies there. We were the first to market with a group in Ireland called Nuritas. And this is a group of researchers that have founded the first artificial intelligence software that is cataloging peptides naturally occurring in nature. They've been doing this for almost a decade now, and they've cataloged over 6 million peptides. And then they're able to do a pharma-like model through the AI algorithm. And, I jumped on this very early for age-related muscle loss when it was just in vitro studies. Now there's 2 human studies on this particular peptide matrix naturally occurring in fava beans to show that it's outperforming milk-based peptides 4-to-1 for activating muscle protein synthesis. By this coming summer, we're going to have 6 different peptides or bioactive proteins that are AI discovered within our portfolio. So this is an area we're going to continue to invest in and scale up with some of those other more well-known peptides and really just, in our view, build out this toolbox for practitioners to count on when they need to make a great difference with their patient care.
That's an interesting use of AI, right? I mean, using it for supplements because you're looking at all this research and then you're still using the artfulness within it. You know, people either go one way or the other. They're like, it's either you're a true artist and never use anything like AI ever and just go completely on the art side, or you're all in AI and you don't even have any say and you just let it rule you. But you're using AI to then come up with creative, skilled kind of versions of supplements and formulations.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can't be all in, right? It's more of a guidance. So it's a predictive algorithm that allows you to focus on next steps when you're evaluating so many different ingredient options or peptides that are naturally occurring. So it's not to say it's the end all be all, but in a guiding measure to then say, okay, let's look at this peptide group, right? Or multiple peptides naturally occurring together, and let's invest in the next steps in evaluating the effectiveness or oral potential that these peptides have for that given target.
For someone that's familiar with peptides as far as taking them through an injectable subcutaneous route, how would you compare the effectiveness and results of an oral peptide to that type of route?
Yeah, well, I think the oral route is becoming more and more popular. Even semaglutide is available as an oral option bound by SNAC, right? So
Mm,
researchers are starting to take notice of the advantage that the right enhancers can make. It's a very hard question to say that an oral is going to respond as good as an injectable, right?
mhm.
Nothing's going to be as good as a direct sub-Q injection or muscle injection. But what we're finding for some particular conditions, the oral could be as good, or in some cases, when we're dealing with the gut, could provide a better outcome.
Mm.
So, and I have plenty of doctors that are using protocols that contain injectable and oral to cover both angles. So again, it just comes down to comfort level, availability, right? I think is another big one. And I think once patients start, or the end users or consumers listening, uh, are even aware that there are some oral options available, many would be willing to start there, most likely have better compliance and could then get better outcomes because of that.
Could you utilize both? Can you do an injectable BPC while doing the oral BPC?
We have many doctors that are doing that.
Mm,
We don't provide anything injectable. Everything we do is supplement
yep.
status. So we're the arm that is the oral option. But we have plenty of doctors that are doing protocols, tapping into a variety of different deliveries. So they'll tap into the compounding pharmacy world
Mhm.
when that's needed. But I've seen firsthand impact in case studies and testimonials with these combinations being the secret sauce for many patients.